You get the gist. You get the idea. I'm playing in lots of different keys. So I picked a little riff that I clearly didn't actually really know that well, and was putting it in all keys. So, as an improvising sax player, this is my, Chez, hi, nice to meet you. This is my third video in what will be a long series on my thoughts on improvisation and how I came to be an improvising sax player. So this is all about the theory behind it. If you haven't watched the two previous videos, I really recommend you do. I'll put links to them here and here. The exits are here, here and here. Yeah, it is progressive, this playlist, so it's worth watching the ones before if you haven't caught them. So now I'm going to go into the theory side where you understand what's going on in your head a little bit more so that you can combine what you're hearing with your understanding of what key you're in. So bear with me, it's difficult to do a video like this, which is kind of, I'm trying to be as universal as possible, so appeal to beginners and people that are a bit more advanced. So I'm sorry if any of this is really patronising, and I'm also sorry if it's going right straight over your head. Do write comments and let me know where I can help you out a little bit more. So if anything just is really confusing, then please write a note and I'll get back to you about that. So I'm going to talk about, first of all, different keys. So I'm sure you've learned several different notes on the saxophone. I think the best thing for me to do, because it's black and white, is to do an image of a piano here. Okay, so there are 12 different keys. You can see the piano's in patterns. You can see those patterns, the 2s and the 3s with the blacks, are making it really clear for you. You would have already heard of an octave, your old somewhere over the rainbow octave. Octave takes you back to the same note again. So that's your pattern, 8 notes, but the 8th note is the same as the first note. So technically you've got 7 different white notes, and then you can see from your black keys you've got 2s and 3s. So 5 black keys. So essentially 7 plus 5, you've got 12 different keys to play with. Okay, playing in all those keys. So if you've not come across it before, I'm a big fan of the circle of fifths, which we're about to go to now. Okay, this is the circle of fifths. Yeah, that's a crazy looking circle. So basically, if you start on the C, that's your white note scale. So no flats or sharps in that at all. If you go up within the key of C with your no flats or sharps, if you go up 5 notes, so your C is number 1, D is number 2, E is number 3, F is number 4, don't know why I hesitated there, it's been a long day, and G is number 5. So you reach your 5th note, hence the circle of fifths, and you get to G major. You may have already learnt G major and you know that it has an F sharp in it, so that has the first sharp. If you go up 5 notes from G major, so G is 1, A is 2, B is 3, C is 4, D is 5, you land on your 5th note D, that has 2 sharps, which is your F sharp and your C sharp. And they're cumulative from there. You can see where I'm going with this. So another 5 notes, you'll be at A and that's got 3 sharps. Another 5 notes up, you'll be on E and that's got 4 sharps. So they're cumulative as they go along. You could go backwards. So if you start back at C again and you count backwards 5 notes within your C major scale, you end up with C as 1, backwards 1 is B, A, G, and you land on F. And F is your first flat scale. So that's got the B flat in it if you've already learnt it. Counting down 5 from there within your F major scale, so it's still, F major has a B flat in it. You go backwards, F is 1, down 1 is E, D, C, and you land on your B flat. And that's how we've got all of these flat scales on this side. You ended up landing on the black notes that are within that scale. So first thing I would recommend you do is just sit down and write out all 12 keys now that you really understand what sharps or flats they have in them and how they became there. Okay, back to the improvising bit. So being able to improvise in all keys. So first of all, even if you're using one scale over a whole track, so a lot of house tracks tend to be in one key, quite a lot of pop and gospel you can get away with using one scale, funk you can, so that's great. You still need to be able to work out that key and be able to play in that key. So generally I use a lot of major pentatonics or minor pentatonics. So I'll just explain how you, very briefly, although I did explain this in the very first video, so again, cross-reference that. But I'll just switch back and remind you how you work out a major pentatonic and how you turn it into a minor pentatonic. So let's take our C major, because that's bang in the middle. So C major, how you turn it into a major pentatonic? Well, does what it says on tin, pent, like a pentagon. It's got 5 notes instead of the 7 or octave 8. So you take the first note, the second note, the third note, get rid of that fourth because it's going to clash with too much stuff in the backing track. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 5 and 6, and we got rid of 7 as well. So you end up with a scale that sounds a little bit like this. And that major pentatonic is really good for, again, gospel, things that are quite positive. Latin music tends to often use major pentatonic. Minor pentatonic is a little bit more bluesy because we're going to mess with some of these notes and flatten them out. So minor pentatonic, you take 1 from the scale, so that would be our C. You take the third and you flatten it. So our third is C, D, E. Flatten that, you've got E flat. So you use 1, flat 3, E flat. 4 is F, 5 is G, and then we take the 7 and flatten it, and that's B flat. So we end up with something along the lines of, which is a little bit more jazzy, bluesy. Jazz, man, it's jazz. Okay, I think I'm going to kind of call it a day there because there's quite a lot of information to take in. But what my next video will then talk about is how we can use all of these keys to then do what's called chord changes and just getting the basics of chord tones and being able to change chords. So yeah, hope that was helpful for you, and do subscribe to my channel, please, please, please. And I'll see you on Twitter and Instagram and all of those things. Bye guys, see you.